I have had an epiphany slash change of plans since the last time I posted on my blog, and definitely since the last time I made a video. I didn't make a video last week because I was so like, what do I want to do with my story? I had an epiphany relating to my other story, the one that I was working on, before the like main story kind of in my mind. I had an idea for a separate story that was like a Cinderella kind of themed fairy tale type story. What if I incorporated the Cinderella stuff I was thinking, kind of like modern, only a little bit based on Cinderella? What if I incorporated that into my story to give it kind of like a, I don't know, like more of a kind of a familiar sketch of a like shape of the story, rather than making it be like 100% like, yeah, she goes to the ball, she rides like a pumpkin carriage and has a shoe and all that stuff. Just incorporate like little story elements like peppered into the story to kind of give it, like the flow or whatever. I was like, hey, this could work, because I have some ideas for like a story that's like heavily Cinderella, but it was really hard to get into because I was like, this is so much Cinderella that it doesn't even feel original. And I know that like no story is really original anymore because so many people have written so many stories, but I didn't want to just be writing another Cinderella story. But this is like a way for me to be like, okay, I like Cinderella, I like a lot of these elements, but how can I incorporate them into a story that's mine? So I started rewriting my story, kind of I'm going to be using the beta feedback I've received as well, because I've received a lot of helpful beta feedback recently. So I'm going to kind of reshape my story to have a little bit more classic fairy tale type cohesion. But yeah, I'm excited. I have all these like new kind of more fantasy minded ideas where it's still set in like the real world, but it's set in the real world, but not actually. It's kind of like the real world, but the fantasy version, the fiction version, because I do think I was relying too heavily on the way things really had been, like at the time that the story was set. And now I'm starting to be like, no, I want things to be kind of like next to real, if that makes sense. So like, for an example, like social media, I'm not using any of the social media names. And I already kind of was doing that, where I wasn't calling social media by the actual name, because I just feel like things can get so dated so quickly these days. And I don't want to like use the name of something that goes out of fashion and then people will read it and be like, why are they using this old thing that nobody uses anymore? Also, I was listening to The Shit No One Tells You About Writing, and Carly Waters mentioned autofiction, which is a genre where it's like a memoir, but it's fiction. So like it's a fictionalized version of real things. And I was like, oh my God, that's exactly what my story is. I have like another genre name now I can use. My story is it's based on like real things, but it's like the fairy tale version of the real things. And so I'm really excited. And no one else can tell my story because it's my story. And so it's very exciting to me that like I don't have to worry about, oh, am I doing something that's been done a million times? Because it's like, not really, not if it's based on like my real life.